Welcome to the Temple of Flame. On today, Pit Black Lights, we take a look at this. And what this is from Gindo's, it is the mild roasted red pepper hot sauce. And definitely it is exceedingly mild. Milder than I was actually thinking it was going to be. But this is important, I think. It's a fun way for beginners. And it is. This is a very good sauce to ramp into something. And we'll get into that a little bit after, once we get into the video a little bit. But we'll talk about my own story a little bit for those of you interested in that. So the smell, texture, and taste of spicy foods. That might be overstating it a tad. But we've got a recommendation of eggs, potatoes, yep, mac and cheese. I would say no, there's not really a point. Chicken, sure. Pizza and flatbreads, yep. Vegetables, yep. Dips and spreads. So, one of the things now listed on here is sandwiches. And I think sandwiches would be probably my first thing, simply because of the roasted red peppers here, which you can see. All right, so sweet red bell pepper. That is the roasted peppers, part of it. Distilled vinegar, water. I was initially not going to get this until I saw it at habanero. We have Aiea salt. We have pink Himalayan salt. Fantastic. Black lava salt. Again, very nice. Organic cane sugar, ground peppercorns, and xanthan gum. So we've seen everything after the Aiea salt in a few different sauces, and that might be like one of the hallmarks of Gindo's, possibly. I don't have some of the past ones. I don't keep my empty bottles to go back and look at the labels, and I don't. There's a really cool site from Kendall, a guy named Kendall, called Tasting the Heat, and he puts the labels, the ingredient labels, or the backsides, I guess, on the on his reviews, as well as the front-facing label. I only use the front-facing one, and I think it's a really smart thing that he has done. And I wish I had thought of it, because I didn't encounter his blog until probably I had reviewed way over 400 sauces, and a lot of those don't exist anymore. Initially, when I first did it, there was no pictures at all, and I got into that kind of late. So that's why there's some of them companies don't exist anymore, and there's no pictures of anything, because they were gone by the time I got around to taking pictures. So it just... I'm late to a lot of things. Like, sometimes things don't occur to me as fast as I wish they would. But I meant it to be a word-only blog for quite some time. And when I did start doing pictures, I wish I would have thought to put the ingredient labels on there as well. And that's why I include it in every single one of these videos, though, because it's not on the blog. So to me, it's like, well, I'll just put it in videos going forward as much as possible. Anyway, all that aside, you can take a look here. We've got this very nice red-orange with black flecks sauce. I think the sauce looks gorgeous. This is the kind of sauce that if I had a sandwich shop, I would have something like this there, because it is just fantastic. And we'll get into that here in a little bit. In fact, actually, let me stop belaying some of this. And let's just get into the video. So I am going to let me just try it right now, solo, and then we'll get into the food and we'll get into the chatter. A little sour, a little salty, but it is essentially like having a puree of roasted red peppers. Now, to me, when I discovered that roasted red peppers weren't a thing that existed, I tried to use them everywhere I could think. That discovery was one of the happier moments I've had in the food world, coming across that, because I was like, wow. It didn't ever strike me as an introduction to spicy food. And as far as beginner sauce, this is I've said before, I think the beginner sauces need to be a great flavored sauce, because then it will prompt people to eat it more. This is definitely a great flavored sauce. However, I don't know it's reflective of an actual hot sauce, because for me, there is no heat to be had here, like at all. And I think that moves away a little bit, because you can't really say, you know, you're getting used to well, actually, I guess it doesn't say the heat. It says the smell, texture, and taste. I think that's probably fair. Smell, texture, and taste. I think that's probably fair. One of the things I didn't like about roasted red peppers is that they can be a little bit slimy, depending on how long they've sat in the jar. This very neatly sidesteps that problem completely by just having this wonderful sauce. So I was going to do a flatbread pizza, but I couldn't find one, so I got this. This is a margherita pizza, but it's not just any margherita pizza. It is Caulipower. It is a cauliflower pizza. And usually I don't get those, but the flatbreads pizzas that I was thinking I was going to get for this video, well, the store that I typically get my groceries at has this really nasty habit of having stuff there Friday. I usually do my grocery shopping on Friday. They have products there on a Friday, and I may not always be interested in getting them right then, but I earmark them for later, and then they vanish. And the flatbread that I intended to have for this was one of those. And I was debating making it like a bruschetta kind of a thing and then just using this. And I thought, I haven't used a margherita pizza. I haven't had one of those in quite some time. And look at this. This looks just beautiful. Look at that. And I thought, you know, certainly cauliflower is not super close to flatbread, but I knew I was going to get a thin crust, and these happen to be on sale. And I thought, well, every once in a while I like to step out and try something new. I haven't had a lot of cauliflower pizzas I've enjoyed, but that doesn't mean I never will. And, you know, I said before, I like to have new stuff in these videos. So that's the whys and wherefores of this. So like most cauliflower pizzas, this dough is the crust itself is a horrendous mess. Flavor-wise, we have tomato, sauce, the cheese, bits of basil, very nice. It almost has a sticky, gummy quality to it, this crust. It's very bizarre. And of course, this wonderful sauce, which is like you could... I would very readily use this as a pizza sauce. And normally what I typically use as a pizza sauce is the Boar's Head red jalapeno. However, and there's videos to that effect. The more recent one being a calzone. I will tell you this, if you just use this straight as a pizza sauce, you would have a fantastic pie. And that might be something I do in a future video. I might, because I still have some of that boar's head, I might do a half and half. Half using this, half using the boar's head. But this reminds me of a little bit of fried red peppers. And I don't often come across those. Every once in a while I'll see a restaurant that has those, and if I see it on a menu, it's like shishitos. If I see those on a menu, I'm getting them. No questions asked. I don't care if I'm getting anything else, I'm getting those. The fried red peppers was really what got me onto the fire roasting thing. And fire roasted red peppers was a gateway for me into deciding honestly that the best way to have any pepper is to have it fire roasted. There is no pepper that I know of that doesn't improve by having fire applied to it. My second favorite method is to have them smoked. This is horrible. This is not a good pizza. Those used to be all the rage for quite a while. Cauliflower pizzas. It is not worthy of this sauce, but the toppings are, and this is adding such an impact. But, you know, if you're like me and you really like roasted red peppers in sandwiches, but you don't like the sort of what can be the slimy nature of it, this is the solution right here. This is it. So I could see, I mean, as a starter hot sauce, I disagree a little bit because I think there should be some heat, and there isn't any here particularly. But as far as flavor, I mean, Gindo's doesn't miss. For a long time, they were my sure thing. When people would ask me for a good hot sauce. Because I knew no matter what they picked, it was probably going to be the best hot sauce that those people had ever had. I don't even... I'm sure. Everyone in the hot sauce community, everyone that's a chili head has been asked at some point or another, what's their favorite sauce? What's the best sauce? And it's kind of like, for me, like music and stuff, I couldn't pick just one band or one book or one movie. It's the whole idea of just one. I can't do it. There is no just one. No just one best video game. So too with sauces, but this is getting very difficult to eat. I feel like Gindo's has been the high water mark for sauces in a lot of respects for a really long time. But to be fair, that is an opinion I held prior to Butterfly Bakery and some of their wondrous concoctions. Now I would put them, I think, both in the same sort of league, let's just finish this off, I guess. It's a smallish pizza. It was definitely nice to have a margarita, though. It's a simple pizza, but it's very, I really like the balance of flavors for toppings. The crust is horrible, though. One of the other interesting things about this is there are no tomatoes in this at all, okay? When you have a nice richness of flavors from peppers, it can take on an aspect similar to like a tomato sauce kind of a thing. I'm noticing that and then looking for tomatoes and not seeing them in the ingredients. Years and years and years ago when I was a lot younger and I was only beginning to pay attention, that's what kind of got me on the idea of using hot sauce as an actual pizza sauce rather than a marinara or whatever. What I find really interesting about this, a very delicious sauce, is how forward and how bright the actual roasted red pepper flavors are. It definitely is not kind of like this, like I said, the slimy ones, if you get a jar that's been sitting on the shelf for a while, you get sort of a slimy aspect to the roasted red peppers. And the flavor will be muted. Here it's not. Very fresh and very vibrant. And it's like a lot of Gindo stuff. When they're naming a hot sauce after something, you can generally expect that flavor to be very upfront and foremost. And this one with the roasted red pepper, it very definitely is. I really like the way that they complemented it with the salt and with the vinegar there. I think it's very, very exquisitely done. I personally would have preferred some heat to this, and there really isn't any there, but it's meant as a beginner sauce, and I guess it's okay for me to actually look at some of those as well. The definitely, creating stuff, putting it out there on the web. You never know who's going to come across it, who's going to be inspired to perhaps start on their hot sauce journey, their chili head journey. And, as far as a gateway, this is a pretty fantastic one, I think, because it is delicious. But it is, so if you're like me and like a foodie first and a chili head second, stuff like this is really, really very nice because the flavor is just phenomenal. And I do miss the heat, to be sure, but the flavor is just so wonderful with this type of thing that, and I mean, I think it's smart that they make sauces like this. You kind of cover the gamut of, the chili head experience, so to speak, but also, if somebody's looking for a good introductory sauce for somebody that they know and they're not familiar with Gindos, after this, they will be very familiar with Gindos. So it's a very, very smart move. Definitely just another brilliant concoction from one of the very uppermost sauce companies as far as I'm concerned. On the blog, and you can get to the blog by clicking on the link in the description below that goes to the written review for this. There is a area where I discuss my personal favorite hot sauce companies, and Gindo's has been in there since that list has existed. So if you're interested in any of that, but yeah, definitely. Exactly. I mean, it couldn't live up to its name any better than it has. And if that half and half type pizza thing is something you're interested in seeing, let me know, and I'll whip one together with half and half, and compare and contrast the boar's head, which is my usual one, versus this. So yeah, excellent sauce, well worth your time, no matter where you are on the scale of things, and we'll just leave it right there. So that was the Gindo's mild roasted red pepper hot sauce. I go full. In peace, to serve the flame.